Hi book lovers, and welcome to Bookmas Day 3. Today we are going to talk about the 25 books I want to read in 2025. And I thought long and hard about this list because when I thought about the 24 books I wanted to read for 2024, I didn't have in mind that I would start the channel. So I just basically threw some books on there that I obviously wanted to read, but also just a lot of books that I had lying around that I wouldn't have chosen with this book channel, if that makes sense. But I also wanted to know that even prior to that in 2023 I had a list like that because I just really like to kind of put books on here that I want to read but maybe have a harder time picking up, and just, you know, to see myself accountable for that. And I think it's also always fun to have goals like that, especially when you reach that goal by the end of the year, kind of like the Goodreads reading goal. Also, we're like now at 25 books I have to think about for a yearly TBR, and I'm kind of already questioning if I will continue that with 26 books in 2026, but that is so far ahead. Let's just talk about next year and next year's books I want to read, and definitely also let me know in the comments what books you have on your yearly TBR or your radar. With my list, I always try to be very versatile in books that I already own, and I just really want to read them because I feel like I don't really grab towards them on my shelves, but obviously I wanted to read them since I've got them here on my shelves. Then I also got some books that I don't own but that I might read on my Kindle or that I want to read. I'm actually not too sure if I have a new release on this list. I usually have one or two of them on here as well. Then I always also want to try out a new author with this list. When that happens, I usually just put down the author and try to decide later what book I want to read, because it's not really about a specific book, it's really about the author I want to try, and also therefore I still have some flexibility, and I just need that. But yeah, a lot of these books are actually books that I have thought about for a long time, and since we're going to talk about 25, let's start right away. The first one I have here is something I thought I would have already read like immediately when it came out, but because I'm buddy reading the series and we just haven't gotten to this book yet, I haven't done that yet. But wow, this has been the hardest because I really don't want to get any spoilers and I've stayed away from so many reviews. But I also just want to talk about this book so much, and that is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, which is the last Magnolia Parks book, but not the last in the whole universe. First of all, how freaking gorgeous is this cover? Amy Lawless, who designs like these OG covers, she's just such an incredible artist. And as I said, I can't believe I haven't read this yet because I think about these characters so many times. I often go back into the other books and reread certain passages, and I just love this universe so much. It's definitely one of my favorites. I think the only reason why I'm also okay with that I haven't read this one yet is that I know that Jessa Hastings hasn't even started to write the other books in this universe, so it will be such a long time before we get a new book, and therefore I can also savor this a little bit more, and I might even reread the other ones before I get to this one. This one is obviously very far into the series, but I feel like what you need to know about these books is that this is basically Gossip Girl but in London, and very flawed people and very character driven stories. So if that's not for you, I don't think you will enjoy it, but if that sounds like something you will like, then there might be just your favorite series waiting for you. A little theme will definitely be that I want to try and finish some series, and another series that I want to finish is, I think it's called the Bright Fall series, and this is the last book in that series. It's Iris Kelly Doesn't Date by Ashley Herring Blake, and I really enjoyed the other two books in this series, and this is just one book left. This is an interconnected standalone series. The first one is Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and the second one Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail, and this basically follows the same friend group of girls, and this is the last one that's still single. It's Iris Kelly, and she's like the very fun out there one, and Iris is someone who likes to hook up with people, who likes to party, and I think in this one she has a one-night stand that goes very bad, and then she wants to do this play because she's actually a romance author, but she's out of ideas. But the partner she has to play a couple with is actually the woman she had the bad one-night stand with. So that sounds like a lot of fun. My next book is Sweet Temptation by Cora Riley that I've got here, and I put this on my list because first, I got this gifted and I don't want to neglect the books that people gift me, because I don't want them to think that I won't read this and then they won't give me more books. And Sweet Temptation is actually a book that I think I kind of had on my radar for a very long time, and I think why I always had it like saved somewhere in my mind is that this is Marriage of Convenience or Arranged Marriage, something like that, and that's something I really enjoy. And I think you also have Age Gap and Boss and Employee, or maybe she's the nanny. Yeah, he's a single dad and he wants a wife for his kids, and Yeah, I'm not sure if this is actually dark romance. I don't know a lot about Cora Riley. This will be my first book by her and I'm very excited to try her out. But I feel like this gives me more of the vibe of like dark romance, especially since the age gap is a bit bigger and she's a girl barely of age. Oh, scandalous, scandalous. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. This is also, since I think it's indie published, like such a cool format. Like it's big and floppy and yeah, I like when my books are big and floppy. With the same reason, I also put The Step Over by T.L. Swan on my 2025 list because this I also got gifted by a different friend, and again I want them to keep gifting me books, so I need to read these. And this is the first one in the series, The Miles High Club, and I know that my friend really enjoys these books. That's why she gifted it to me. Yeah, I think they have a one-night stand and like a year later she starts a job where he is her CEO, so you also have a little bit of a workplace romance. And yeah, I'm just very excited to see if I will love this as much as my friend does. My next book is actually one that I wanted to get to by the end of the year, but I don't think I will, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillick. This is more of like a gothic fantasy, and I am just itching to read this series. And if I will get to the first one this year, then I'm just gonna put the second one on the list, so it will be either one. But since I have so many books still to read in 2024, this can't be a priority, even though I really want to read it. But therefore, it immediately made it to my list for the 25 books I want to read next year. I'm so excited for this series. I don't really know a lot about this. I just hear that the magic system is quite unique, and as I said, I like to go blindly into one of these books. I hope that there is a little bit of a romance, I'm not so sure, but I think just the whole vibe of like having a gothic fantasy is really great for the winter month. So I think this is something I want to read at the beginning of next year, and yeah, basically just as soon as I have time to read it. Then I have this goal to read all Jane Austen's books, and so far I've only read 2, but my goal is to read at least 1 each year. I still have to read mine for this year, so I always put one of Jane Austen's books on my yearly TBR. I don't say which one exactly, so I'm still flexible to choose which one. I have here Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. It doesn't have to be this one. And classics I'm always a bit more hesitant to go into, but so far the 2 that I read by her I've really enjoyed, and yeah, I would just love to say that I've read them all, especially since so many of the books have movies or shows, and I always like to watch them after I've read the books. And yeah, basically to continue with the theme that I read one of Jane Austen's books each year, I'm gonna put one of these on my TBR. Another book to continue with the series is A Long Way Down by Krista Becker-Ritchie, which is part of the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series. This is the last one in the Calloway Sisters series, because after this you basically just have the epilogue novel with like all the couples. And I always say that these 2 series could be read separately, but really they're so interconnected. Like for me, you can't really read one without the other. I had Fuel the Fire, which is the one before this one, on my yearly TBR for this year, and I'm currently reading that one. And I feel like it's just a crime that I haven't finished this series yet, because this is one of my favorites. I absolutely love the characters, and I just love how attached you are to these characters. Like, these feel like real people. I just have a very hard time saying goodbye to characters that I really like. I also actually often do that with shows that I don't really want to watch the last few episodes, because I just don't want there to be an end. But I feel ready to read these books, especially since I can always reread them. Well, when we finish a lot of series, we obviously can also start new ones. And another one that I had on my shelves quite a bit now is that the Sacred Stone series? Well, the first one is here. It's A Dawn of Onyx, and I think the third one just came out, or I think is gonna come out soon next year. So perfect time for me to start this series, because I always also like to start a series once like more than one book is out, because honestly nothing worse than waiting for a book you really anticipate in a series. You can't do that with me. I also love this format. Like, a big floppy book is just my favorite, and I know almost nothing about this. I think like this is definitely romantasy, which is why I would love to read this. It says, captured by the King of Darkness, she was forced to find the light within. I feel like even the back doesn't really give me a lot. So yeah, I can't tell you much about this, but I'm excited to dive into this series by Kate Golden. My next book I'm almost a little bit embarrassed about, because I'm gonna show you a special edition of a book that I meant to read for literally years now, I think, and I still haven't, but I already have a special edition. So I bet you're gonna love this book. That is A Love Letter to Whiskey by Kenny Steiner, and I'm just really bad and a sucker for a special edition, so I got this one, which I think is very pretty. But yeah, since I already got this, I feel like there's no excuse of not reading it. The reason why I haven't picked this one up yet is that I'm scared that it will really wreck me. And even though I like when a book gives me a lot of depth and emotions and I can feel a lot, I'm always hesitant when I think, oh, a book will make me feel sad, even though like the ending might be a happy ending. I don't like feeling sad, and I especially don't want to make myself feel sad on purpose. So whenever a book is described that it's a bit more heavier, it's gonna take me a while before I pick it up. I like kind of have to force myself a little bit, and that's the case with this one, because A Love Letter to Whiskey is, I think, a second chance romance, and I just hear that it's quite an emotional read. I've read other books by Kenny Steiner and I really like her writing, but I've only read the Red Zone Rivals series. Those are like college football romances, and I think this will be quite different, and therefore also very interesting to see how I like this one by her. Next up, I have A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and I really love this series. This is the last one actually. I gave all the other 3 books before this one 5-star. Like, if you need a good recommendation, definitely read this series. The first one is A Deal with the Devil. And I know you ask right now why I haven't read this one yet, since I gave all the other books in this series 5 stars. Well, it's because this one is accidental pregnancy, and it's just not really something I like, but I want to finish off the series. And I also actually gave this to my friend because she really likes accidental pregnancy. I know, crazy, but like, she's the only person that I know that really enjoys this trope, and she loved this book. And since I know that Elizabeth O'Rourke basically can't do wrong in the series, I feel like that was like my final push to actually say, okay, I'm going to read this next year. What's next on my list I'm like most excited about, because I included a reread. I'm someone who feels actually very guilty if I ever want to reread something, because I'm like, there's so many books that I haven't read yet that I should read, and especially now with the channel that I could also read on this channel for, that I don't ever think that I'm like allowed to just enjoy and read a book that I've already read. But there's so many books that I think constantly about that I would really love to reread. So I thought I would include this on my yearly TBR, because I really don't want to feel guilty about rereading one of my favorite books. And I've definitely reread books in the past already, like this is not going to be my first reread. But what I actually often do is, when I have the itch to reread something, that I would just reread like certain scenes or passages or chapters in a book. And even though that is satisfying for a moment, I want to reread a whole book. And as I said, there's so many. I've got like a few here to show you. Like, I definitely want to reread the Magnolia Park series. I have the first one here. Then one book from this year that actually, since I read it, I've been thinking about doing a reread, and that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is my favorite Emily Henry book. I love this so much, and yeah, I would love to reread and also annotate this one. So that is an option. But also Yours Truly, actually the entire Part of the World series, I would love to reread. And another one that I picked up just to show you, but there are definitely way more on my shelves, is Throttled by Lauren Asher. This is a series that I just absolutely adore, and I don't think Throttled is my favorite book, but it's definitely my favorite couple, and I think about them so often. But yeah, these are just some examples of books that I would like to reread. I actually hope that I will get to reread more than one book. Oh my god. Okay, I think there are no more books that fit on this, but I also only have one more book that I already own to talk about, and that's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I feel like I'm the only person left who hasn't read this yet, and I'll be honest, I'm not even like super excited to get into this. This is something where I can't tell you why I think I won't enjoy this. It definitely has to do with the cover, and I know this is a stupid reason, but nonetheless it like makes me either really want to read something or kind of not want to read something. And yeah, just nothing about the story ever like called to me, but because so many people love it, and also like people in like my real life have told me that I should read it, that I just need to see for myself if I will actually enjoy this or if I don't. And also, I've never read anything else by Mia Sheridan, but since she's also a popular author, I would like to try out one of her books. And I think that her books also always have like a mystery element or like a suspense element in it. I actually don't know a lot about this book. I just know that Archer hasn't communicated with anyone with like words in years, I think. And I think that's pretty much the only thing I really know about this. I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait and see in 2025 what I actually think about this book. I hope this is not a mistake to put up here. So all the next books I have here are actually books that I have not physically with me. The first one is Say You Swear, and that is one, again, I wanted to read for years and years. And the thing why I haven't picked this one up is that I'm pretty sure it's a love triangle, and I freaking hate love triangles. But also, so many of the booktubers that I really like have read it and really enjoyed it, so I want to give it a try. And if it's not for me, then at least I know it's not for me. But I also have hopes that maybe the love triangle isn't as big, or I don't know. It just will be a fun read, because what I also know about the book, that it's written a bit more Wattpad-y. And you know, from time to time I also kind of liked it because I feel like they're quite bingeable and just fun to read. So that one is also on my list. If I count correctly, we're now at number 14. One of my favorite authors, I can say now, is Abby Jimenez. I already kind of thought that last year, but I only read Part of Your World by her, and I thought, you know, just one book is not enough to say someone is your favorite author. So I also read Yours Truly and Just for the Summer this year, and her romances are just so incredible. The book she's coming out with next year is definitely one I'm anticipating so much, and I also want to go back on her backlist, and I think she has only one other series with also 3 books, and the first one is The Friend Zone. So I put that on my 2025 TBR list because now I just want to read everything by her, and I feel like there's a good chance that I won't love those books as much as the new ones, but once I love an author, I just want to read everything they've ever written. My next book I have here is on the same page, which is A Sapphic Romance, because Chandler from like BookTube read this earlier this year and she loved it so much that immediately I was like, okay, I need to read this. And now we're at the end of this year and I still haven't read this book yet, but I really, really want to. And I think why I haven't picked it up yet is that this is a friends to lovers trope, which is just not my preference, but she gave this book so much praise that I still want to read it. And yeah, that's why I put it on my list. I haven't put a lot of fantasy books on this list yet, but one fantasy duology I really want to get into next year is Dance of Thieves. And I just in general want to read more fantasies, but because fantasies are usually long series, I'm kind of hesitant to go into them, but I hear great things about Dance of Thieves, and also that the romance is quite great. That's always a good sales point for me. So yeah, I hope that obviously I will get to both of the books, but I put the first one on my list. At number 17, I put an author on this list that I am a bit scared to get into, but I really, really want to read something by Stephen King. Stephen King is an author that is just so big in our generation, and obviously a lot of his books also turn into movies, and I've watched some of the movies, but I've never picked up a book by him. I never actually picked up a horror book, and I don't know if they're for me, but I love horror movies. However, when I put him on this list, I actually didn't have one of his horror books on mine, because he does have books that are not in the horror genre, and for example Billy, and then also one other one that is like a date, I think, as a title, are ones that I'm very intrigued by. But in general, I just really want to try out one of his books and see how his writing style is, and maybe even pick up a horror book, who knows. I think it's just also that his books are always very, very long, and therefore I kind of shy away from them, but not in 2025. Okay, my next book, I'm kind of scared to put this out there that I want to read it. I want to read the Boys of Torment series. So Binding 13 is on my 2025 TBR, and it's the same reason that I've been hesitant to go into these books, that I'm just very scared that they will emotionally wreck me, and I'm just not prepared for that. But I actually gave the first book to one of my friends because I think she would love it, and she did, and she told me since then that I really need to read this series so we can talk about it. And here's my promise to you that I will in 2025, and I'm excited, also slightly scared, because I feel like I will either obsess with them or kind of not like it at all. There's no in between, and I don't know how I feel about either outcome, to be honest, but we'll see next year. Okay, the next book I'm super excited about, and that is Six of Crows. I never thought I would actually ever read this book because obviously this has been around for years and years, and at the very beginning, like when I started watching BookTube and just in general got into reading a lot more, I always saw that this was a favorite for a lot of people, but I only really started reading fantasy as of the very end of 2022, so not for a long time. And therefore I thought I would never read this book. But what I really know about the plot is that you follow several people who work together to pull off a heist, and I think that just sounds very cool. And also that the found family is incredible in these books, and found family is something that I love to read about. So I'm super excited to read that. And I think also this is just a duology. I know that the books are longer, but I can deal with the duology. It's not like a super long series, and I'm just excited to see whether I love it as much as most other people. Number 20 is the Mindfuck series, and I want to read this series so bad. I think that every year now I'm gonna read the Mindfuck series. The problem with me and my reading habits is that I'm such a seasonal and mood reader that, for example, the Mindfuck series is something that I would read around Halloween or at least the winter month, but it's also dark romance and something that I don't read a lot of. Then I maybe pick up something else and then I don't get to the Mindfuck series, and I'm annoyed that I don't get to the Mindfuck series. So I put this on the list so I can't avoid it, and I will read it. You follow a serial killer, and she actually starts to date the investigator who's looking into her cases, obviously without him knowing that she is the serial killer he's looking for. And I think that just sounds like so much fun. And yeah, 2025, I will read that series. All right, we have the last 5 books now. And next up I have The Last Word by Taylor Adams. And this is a thriller where I think the author goes after someone who left a 1-star review on her book. And I think just thinking about this already gives me the chills. I read No Exit by Taylor Adams last year, and it was one of my favorite thrillers. Actually, one of my favorite books I read last year. So I'm very excited to read another book by the author. For my favorite number 22, I have A Tempest of Tea on this list. And this, I believe, is fantasy. And really what draws me to the book is that I wanted to pick this up earlier because I love the cover, and as you know, I'm a sucker for the cover. But then I also saw Rachel talk about the book, and she said it was really good, and especially that it was very fast paced and that a lot happened in the first book of the series. I don't know how many books there will be in the series. And once I saw Rachel talk about it, I regretted not getting it when I saw it in a bookstore. So after feeling that regret now for weeks, I put this on the list, so I will definitely read this next year. Then to switch it up, I also have a memoir on here, and I really like to read memoirs. And I'm not sure, but I don't think I've picked up a memoir this year, and that is just wrong. I also like to read nonfiction here and there, and I don't like that I put that off often because I know that it takes me a bit longer to read a memoir or nonfiction than, just a romance, but that's no excuse to not read them at all. So the memoir I put on my list is A Sociopath, a Memoir, and this just intrigues me. I don't really know a lot about this book. I think it's actually on the Goodreads Choice Awards list for this year's memoir. And yeah, I had this book in my hands already quite a few times when I was in bookstores, but I never picked it up because I thought, oh, I have so many other books that I still need to read, and will I really read this right away? And yeah, no more excuses. I will read it next year, and I'm actually really excited about that. My second to last book is actually one that I got recommended by one of you guys, and that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I can't really tell you a lot about the book, but I think the setting is just so interesting. This is fantasy, and our main character is Bolivian Argentinian, and it all plays in Egypt. So when I read the comment in the recommendation, I was like, ooh, it's not really what I would usually go for, but it sounds so interesting that I thought I'll just put it on my 2025 TBR. And yeah, I'll let you know what I think, and also thank you for that recommendation. And with that, we come to number 25, the last book on this list, and we're going to end this with a romance and a trope that I really love, and that is Marriage of Convenience. And I want to read The Favor. I have The Favor on my Kindle downloaded for at least, I don't know, 2 years, I think. And I'm so sure that this is a book I will enjoy. So why haven't I picked it up yet? I don't know. But I will next year. But yeah, this is the last book on the list, and I feel like I've been sitting here for ages and talked to you about the 25 books I want to read next year. And let me definitely know if you have a yearly TBR, what's something that you definitely want to read next year. I hope that I did a better job with this list for next year than the one that I had for this year. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And if you want to be here for that, then subscribe and also give this video a like. Actually, someone just rang the bell, but I wanted to say that I'll see you not tomorrow, but the day after for Bookmas Day 4. Bye!